And hello and greetings to everyone. Today is a review of the Sunday school lesson for Sunday, March 11th. And the lesson comes to us from a very familiar source, and that is the Gospel of John, chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. I'm just going to give a couple of quick highlights of things that you might want to lift up as you teach the lesson in your church. First of all, dealing with verses 1 through 5, and I like to talk about those verses as being creation and light. And this is where you would really want to tie in the lesson from last week and with this week's lesson. Last week's lesson, entitled Wise Up, or Wisdom's Part in Creation, was taken from Proverbs chapter 8 verses 22 through 35, and that deals with the way that wisdom was a part of God as he had created the world. Well, here in this week's lesson, we find that the Word, or Jesus Christ himself, was there in the very beginning as God was creating everything. And not only was Jesus there in the very beginning, but it is Jesus that also gives light and life. I think that one thing that separates human beings from the creatures of the earth is that we have this sense of spirit about us. Whereas other creatures of the world, your dogs, your cats, they act out of instinct. And sometimes they also act out of intelligence. But we are created in the Spirit of God. We are created in the very form of God. Therefore, we also have a sense of spirit about us. We don't have to just act on instinct or impulse or intelligence. We can also act upon spirit and act upon the light that spiritual living gives to us. And that this light that we have from the Spirit of God is something that overcomes darkness, not just the visual darkness, but more the spiritual darkness that's all around us. So God doesn't just create us as beings to live on instinct. He creates us to be creatures of spirit and creatures that can see beyond the darkness that overcomes everything else. But if you live by spirit, no matter what things come against you, no matter what disasters or even what sins might arise against you, there is a light that overcomes these things. So definitely you'll want to tie in last week's lesson with this week's lesson, and you'll also want to focus on the fact that God creates us not just to be creatures of instinct, but also creatures of spirit, because he brought light and life as part of the creative process. Verses 6 through 11. Light is foretold and it is rejected as well. We see that light is being foretold by, of course, John the Baptist. And certainly you would want to tie in or at least make reference to what we find in the Synoptic Gospels concerning the ministry of John the Baptist. But not only that, but also highlight the goodness that this light gives to us. And just looking at a couple of verses, verses 9 and 10, for example. The true light that enlightens every man was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him. So that sense of light in creation, that sense of enlightening is something that we ought to embrace. And you want to highlight that point, but also highlight the point that we see in verses 10 and 11 also, that even though the world was made through him, yet the world knew him not. He came to his own home, and his own people received him not. So this would be a good place to have some discussion in your class about why do you think people still reject Jesus? Why do you think people reject Christianity? And that might lead to some very interesting discussion in your class, but it's a good thing to have discussion in your class. So the second portion of the lesson, light, foretold, and rejected, highlight some things about the ministry of John the Baptist, and also lead into a discussion about the goodness of light, and talk about some of the reasons why some people still reject light to this very day. And lastly, verses 12 through 14, the transforming power of light. And this will be the main current of the lesson. This is the foundation of the lesson itself. It's that in verse 12, but all who received him, all who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God. And that is something that's not dictated by what family you belong to, what school did you graduate from, what race you are, or what nationality you belong to. No, when it comes to being a child of God, that is clearly something that is born of spirit and not born of flesh. It's something that comes from that light and from that life, and it does not come from instinct or intelligence. So you really want to highlight what that transforming power means. What does it mean to be a child of God in today's society? And that we are to bear witness of the goodness of God. That we simply can't, talk about, oh, I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and keep it all to ourselves. No, we have to talk about it. We have to show it by the way that we live. So the meaning behind this creation, the meaning behind this Jesus being a part of the creation, that the Word was with God and the Word was God. It's not creation simply for the sake of creation, but it's creation to show people the ultimate good and the ultimate purpose of the God that we serve. And that the ultimate good and ultimate purpose of God is to bring us into his family. Granted, God is a judge, God is a lawgiver, but above all, God is spirit that invites us into his presence. I want to thank those who took the time to write some things, to send me some messages, and to subscribe to my channel. God bless you, and I hope that what I have to say does help you in your journey in the Christian faith. Also, I do have a blog called St. Simon's Order. You'll find it on stsimonsorder.wordpress.com. I'm doing a journal during Lent, and I hope that will be a blessing to you as well. Again, anyone else who wants to chime in on this lesson, you are more than welcome to do so. I welcome any other points of view and any other things that will help us to share the goodness of Jesus Christ in our Sunday schools. May God be praised, and may you have a blessed day.